here on Talk and Fight, the mecca of boxing in Toronto, Canada. Bringing you another episode of Boxing News today. All the headlines fit the print. Let's start off with a quick little story out of Australia. Skye Nicolson, one of our favorite fighters, signed to Matchroom, is hopeful her first world title bid will happen on home soil in Australia in April. She's based in the UK and is unbeaten with 9 wins from 9 fights in her professional career. And after Amanda Serrano vacated the WBC featherweight belt last month, due to her little scuffle with WBC not wanting 3-minute rounds, interim belt holder Nicholson was told to fight Sarah Mahfoud for the vacant belt. Nicholson says it would be a dream come true to challenge for her first world title in Brisbane. The 28-year-old is signed, as I said, with Eddie Hearn's Matchroom and will be a big favorite if the fight does happen in Australia. But Mahfoud is she's good. Denmark's Mahfoud is a former IBF champ at featherweight, but lost that belt to Serrano in points defeat back in September 2022. Nicholson, who won the interim belt last November, was targeting a fight with Serrano before the Puerto Rican took a stand against the WBC's decision. Mahfoud, by the way, has 3 points wins under her belt in Denmark since losing to Serrano. Nicholson said, I know Mahfoud won 3 rounds against Serrano just over a year ago. She won 3 rounds against me. And that was the same against Lucy Wildheart. She won 3 rounds against Michaela Mayer. She wasn't winning 3 rounds against me. Never. It wasn't going to be close. I feel very confident. I know she's a good boxer. That works in my favor. Fighting good boxers does. So there you go. Some news from Down Under from Skye Nicolson and Matchroom Boxing. Let's have a quick scoot around the world and have a look at what's happening in Canada on January 25th at the Casino de Montreal. I have the Tiger. It's having another fight night. And this year's main event will feature Eric Bazignan, 31-0. Wow. Against Bill Godoy. He's 41-7 for the NABF and WBA Continental Super Middleweight titles. Albert Ramirez, 17-0, originally set to face American contender Charles Foster in the evening's co-main event, will now also step into the ring. That'd be a good night of fighting over in Montreal. Let's move on out to the East Coast, have a look at what Ryan Rozicki's up to. He's promising war. Ryan Rozicki, 20-1, great fighter from Sydney, Nova Scotia, is fresh off his first round knockout of Olan Rewaju Duradula last month. And the win made Rozicki the mandatory challenger to the WBC Cruiserweight's crown, which is currently held by Noel McCallion, who's 27-2, by the way. So speaking with Rozicki here, let's have a quick look here. Where does it say? Speaking with Rozicki and his promoter Dan Otter over at Three Lions Promotions, both gave their takes on the last fight and having earned the right to be next in line to face McCallion. So it could have been a King Kong across from me that night, said Rozicki, and I was getting the knockout. Anyone who steps into the ring with me is walking dead as far as I'm concerned. And Duradola is lucky the ref stepped in when he did, because I was ready to fight there until the death. So not surprised, just gave me some reassurance. So it's a great quote out of Ryan Rozicki from the East Coast of Canada. And I look forward to seeing that fight being scheduled and looking forward for that result as well. Upcoming as well, looks like William Zepeda is going toe-to-toe against Maxie Hughes, looking at March 16th date for the IBF Light Eliminator in Las Vegas. Negotiations are still underway for this one, but the IBF Lightweight Final Eliminator is online here. It's a tough matchup for the number 5 ranked IBF contender Hughes. He's 26-6-2, by the way, because he's not much of a puncher. He's coming off a loss to George Kambosos Jr., albeit a controversial one. The winner of the Hughes-Zepeda fight, if it happens, will decide the mandatory for the Vasily Lomachenko-George Kambosos Jr. winner. Those guys are fighting for the IBF vacant lightweight title upcoming in April. And Devin Haney recently vacated the belt, as you all know. So on paper, this is a slam dunk win for Zepeda, 29-0, 25 knockouts, because he's too big and too powerful and too busy for Hughes, who is a pot shot mover type of fighter. Zepeda will catch up to Hughes and chop him down like he did his last opponent, Mercito Gasta. And it's courtesy of BoxingNews24.com. With him being a lightweight and being heavily promoted by Golden Boy, I've seen him the last couple of years, so I know exactly where he's about, said Hughes in a recent interview about Zepeda. What you see is what you get. He's an aggressive, come-forward, high-volume puncher. He's also southpaw. He's not awkward. Like myself, he doesn't make it tricky. He comes at you. Zepeda has been moved slowly throughout his 9-year professional career, but he's finally on the verge of putting himself in a position to fight for a world title. Recently, Zepeda has beaten these fighters: Mercito Gasta, Jaime Arboleda, Joseph Diaz, and Rene Alvarado. So, looks like Maxie Hughes has a fight on his hands coming up. Anyway, speaking of upcoming fights, it goes on. Callum Smith on Beterbiev making 3 crucial mistakes going into their unified WBC, IBF, and WBO title fight. Callum Smith warns Artur Beterbiev that he is big enough to be a threat at light heavyweight as well as super middleweight. And as his performance against Canelo Alvarez does not reflect his true fighting abilities, and that looking ahead to a possible undisputed title fight would be a major error. Beterbiev defends his WBC, IBF, and WBO 175-pound title against Burton Smith over the Videotron Center in Quebec City, upcoming to be shown on Sky Sports in the early hour UK time Sunday morning. It's taking place Saturday night here in Canada. The champion has suggested that Smith will struggle to replicate his success at super middleweight in the division above. But Smith is adamant that Beterbiev should not underestimate the threat he poses. I think people always see him as a big super middleweight and probably small light heavyweight. I think I'm still a big 175 pounds. I think I've filled into the weight nicely since moving up. It's been a couple of years now. If he does think he's just a super middleweight, then more fool him. I think he'll be in for a shock when we get in there, and I'm a big, fully fledged 175 pounds. Now, it should be noted that Beterbiev has been cleared to fight Callum after returning atypical drug test result. So let's quickly read here, courtesy of The Independent over in the UK. Artur Beterbiev's title defense against Callum Smith will go ahead on Saturday, where the champion cleared to fight after returning an atypical drug test result. It was revealed on Thursday, and that would be the 11th of January, that Beterbiev had returned an atypical result in a voluntary anti-doping association BADA test in December. However, the unified light heavyweight champ has since tested negative and been cleared to compete. Smith's promoter, Eddie Hearn, said there was never a contractual reason to cancel the fight because Beterbiev's result was atypical rather than adverse. While journalist Kevin Iole report an atypical finding is not a violation and requires more testing, and Beterbiev underwent those examinations at VADA's request. VADA reported negative results from the follow-up tests, from urine tests done on December 15th and December 21st, and from blood tests on December 21st and January 3rd. Beterbiev had received atypical findings for human growth hormone, HGH, and 5D androstenediol. Both occur naturally in the body. When an atypical finding is received, further testing is required to determine if an athlete naturally produces a substance in his or her body at a greater level than average, or if the elevated levels were signs of anti-doping. VADA founder and chair Margaret Goodman told Boxing News, atypical findings are fairly common in PED, performance-enhanced drug testing, and do not constitute an adverse test result. They can result from various causes. Atypical findings generally warrant the collection of further samples, but no negative inference should be drawn from an atypical finding in and of itself. Smith also said, it's not a pass test. It's not a failed test. The fight's still happening. The main thing is I'm not a scientist. I'm a fighter. I'm here to beat him, take his belts, and go home. Yeah, so that is making the rounds. If you take a look at the headlines, uh, Callum Smith is quite excited about fighting Beterbiev and defeating the undefeated champion. And we're all looking forward to it because, quite frankly, if Beterbiev does win, and I'm thinking he will win, I'm sure he will win. Let me correct myself. Um, I would like Beterbiev and Bivol to fight. But as we know, Beterbiev must beat Callum Smith first, and Callum Smith thinks he will win, and so does Eddie Hearn think he will win. Um, wow. So if in fact this victory does uh, occur for Beterbiev against Callum Smith, looks like the undisputed championship against Bivol uh, in the light heavyweight division would take place in Saudi Arabia in either April or May, says boxing247.com. Beterbiev, by the way, he's 19-0. He's closing in on, I believe, 40 years of age, though. Still needs to beat Callum Smith on Saturday and then sign his own deal with the Saudis. If Callum, 29-1, by the way, wins, his promoter, Eddie Hearn, says they'll make a deal to fight Bivol as well for the 4 belts. So this should be interesting. Hearn revealed the news today to the media about Bivol, 22-0, signing to meet the winner of Saturday's Beterbiev Smith clash at the Videotron Center in Quebec City. Said Eddie Hearn, I think his boxing brain and his one-punch knockout power, wow. When asked what advantages Callum Smith has in this fight with Artur Beterbiev. Boxing brain and a one-punch knockout. Okay. Smith is in the position to wreck the Saudis' plans for a Beterbiev-Bivol fight by defeating Beterbiev and taking his place. Hearn insists that Smith has improved since his loss to Canelo Alvarez 4 years ago in 2020, but he looks pretty much the same, and he's just put on more size since moving up to 175, as we just discussed. Over in Germany, Aegon Sports has won an IBF purse bid for the right to promote the IBF junior middleweight title fight between Golden Jack Kulke and Bakram Murtazaliev by bidding $666,000 roughly. Aegon Sports trumped Murtazaliev's promoter, who offered $500,000. So the Kulke Murtazaliev fight will likely take place on April 6th at the Falcon Sea Arena in Germany. And the title is currently vacant after being relinquished by Jermell Charlo last month. So things move quickly. Now, speaking of moving quickly, be remiss without mentioning our good friend KSI, who I'd never heard of a few months ago. But anyway, KSI runs out of the UK a boxing outfit called Misfits, and apparently Misfits 12 is happening soon. I want to bring this to your attention simply because it's fun. I don't know how many. This is what they call influencer boxing. So I don't know how many fans of these influencers are also fans of boxing, but I'm sure they will be if they were to watch a couple of young ladies go toe-to-toe in a rematch. Young ladies. Now, I believe there's a show over there called Love Island in the UK. I'm not familiar with it. I'm not sure how it goes, but I believe one of the Furies was on it. Anyway, this upcoming card, Misfits 12, is going to see a rematch between AJ Bunker and Elle Brooke. Both of them influencers, both of them OnlyFans superstars. But anyway, Brooke came out on top on the last time they met, and the two are ready to go head-to-head again in the ring. It's for the Misfits Female Middleweight Championship. And if you have a look at the pictures online, I'm sure you'll find them. These gals are pretty good looking, and it's going to be a great fight to watch for the boxing fans / influencer boxing fans. I don't know. I guess that's how you might call it. It's being fought in Leeds First Direct Arena, with the capacity being approximately 13,000. And KSI is, in fact, hoping for a sellout in his first Misfits boxing event of the year. So good for him, promoting boxing and also getting in the ring and fighting himself. But we'll see where it goes. we've debated it often here on Talk and Fight, the impact of influencer boxing, such as Creator Clash that happens down in Florida each year, and influencers like Jake Paul, and quite frankly, the way he's dealing with management through his own company called MVP Promotions. So I'm sure it's good for the sport. I'm sure anything that is good for boxing is going to help. How can it not? Thanks very much for joining me here on Talk and Fight. Appreciate it very much. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you later on at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday to Friday. Thank you very much.